Junk food companies seeking growth markets are flooding poor countries with cheap, unhealthy food. You wouldn't think that a free trade agreement with all its economical upside could lead to a diabetes or obesity epidemic, but they do. Today, Mexico provides a great example. Over the past 2 decades, the government of Mexico has signed more than a dozen free trade agreements and nearly 30 investment treaties that have opened up the countryside and the retail sector to transnational companies, putting Mexico's food system up for grabs. Nick, what is happening right now is, since '93 with NAFTA agreement, the market opened up, and the biggest influx of foreign investment has been into the processed food sector, hence changing the diet of the lowest and the poorest level of the society. And now we're seeing a crazy increase in these diseases. Not only that, now we're excelling, not only in selling processed food, but also excelling at being overweight and being sick. We are the #2 country in the world. In child obesity, we're the #1 country in the world in obesity and diabetes. It's scary.
Yeah, and I can say with confidence that that is directly thank you to the U.S. for that. Nobody invests in processed foods the way that we do here. I mean, it's ridiculous, and unfortunately it spills over to other countries, especially our closest neighbor. Now you mentioned that you guys are #1 in childhood obesity, which is really sad. 10 million people are estimated to be living in Mexico with diabetes, which is a staggering number given the fact that you guys have about 122 million population. 10 million out of 122, that is a lot of people.
It's insane. Mexico right now is one of the 10 biggest producers of processed food in the world. But not only that, Mexico is also excelling in one very scary index, obesity and diabetes. Now, it's so prevalent that they created a new term for it called diabesity, which is a combined, because they come hand in hand. You know, when you see the obesity grow, also the diabetes. 29% of Mexican children between the ages of 5 and 11 were overweight. 35% of any youngster between 11 and 19 are overweight. 1 out of 10 school-age children suffer from anemia. So we're not only seeing this spectrum that goes from being overweight and having diabetes to not having enough nutrients in our food, because what is happening, Coca-Cola company, one of the biggest producers of soda in Mexico, and Mexico is one of the main consumers in the world, also owns these little stores called Oxxos. So you guys get a reference, it's pretty much like a 7-Eleven. But the way and the growth of these little establishments are killing the little local neighborhood store that used to sell beans, rice, and fresh veggies and fruits, replacing that with processed food, soda, chips, bread, and anything obviously based off corn, which is subsidized, and also it's easy to process, and it grows plenty in Mexico.
Sorry to keep bringing up the U.S., but again, you're seeing the exact same thing happen. Companies like Walmart, McDonald's, all these companies are just making it so that mom and pop shops gone, big food companies like this, Principe, whatever, Multigrain, all these chip companies, you know, we're seeing less stores, like you said, rice and beans. We're seeing more chips, Ruffles, Funyuns, ketchup, mustard. It's disgusting and it's sad. We saw in the late 90s to the early 2000s huge surge in investment in processed foods from Mexico. So unfortunately, that is the result. And it's sad because what goes best with some good Mexican tacos is a bottle of Coke. And it's sad that, you know.
Let me tell you about Coke. Another thing that Coca-Cola did. Recently in Mexico, they did a tax. 10-cent tax, a peso, 1 peso tax for each bottle of soda that contained sugar. Coca-Cola had the great idea to say, oh, if the problem is with the sugar, what I'm going to do is take away the Mexican Coke that is famous for having natural cane sugar, and I'm going to sell it as a premium product in the United States, and then I'm going to send my artificial sweetened Coca-Cola back to Mexico that will make your people even fatter. That was the thing that you were trying to prevent with the tax to begin with. So you're right, even though the government is trying to do something, the involvement and the influence of these transnational companies is way too big to be stopped. But we want to know what you think. Are you as outraged as I am to see these things happening in the world? Because it's not only concentrated in Mexico, it happens in most of the poor countries of the world where these companies go in, make a profit without thinking of the consequences to health. Let us know what you think. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the Lib TV.